Hi, this is Shawn Phillips of Retrospectives with John Broughton on KC Radio 97.7 FM.
Growing up and developing an interest in music, were you always keen to seek out as many styles of music as possible?
Yeah, when I grew up traveling an awful lot with my father, who was an author. And because I was doing all that traveling, I was constantly, faced with different musical idioms from the South Pacific to Spain, so forth and so on, like that.
When you started singing and writing, were you particularly ambitious in terms of career goals?
In terms of what? Of career goals. I didn't understand the word.
In terms of your career.
Oh, in terms of my career?
Yeah.
Well, I actually never thought about it. I mean, I started playing when I was 6, and, when you start you continuously develop. You don't really think about, I'm going to be a star and I'm going to be this and that. And because, when I started, that wasn't the question. That it didn't have the scenario that we have in the music industry today.
Now, you spent some time in the folk scene in Greenwich Village?
Yes, I did. A lot of time.
What are your memories of that? And were there any artists there that you had a particular affinity with?
Well, I got along well with Bob Dylan, Tim Hardin, Dave Van Ronk, Bill Cosby. All those people we were all doing the same thing at the same time. We were, they'd have little cafes, and we'd go into the cafe and play for 30 minutes and then pass a basket and make our living that way.
Now, you turned away from all that and went to London for a while in the mid-'60s. Was there a particular disenchantment with the scene in the States at the time?
Well, at the time, there really wasn't a scene. As I say, like the scenario that there is in the music industry today. What happened was I had been in Toronto, and I went to a concert by Ravi Shankar, and I heard him play sitar, and I later got myself one of the instruments, and I wanted to go to India to study sitar, and then I left for England. And while I was in England, I played at a party, and a man named Dennis Preston said, "Hey, would you like to stay here and make a record?" And I said, "Yes, as long as you don't put a time clause on the contract." And so that's what started the first two voice and guitar albums off.
In comparison to how it was back in the States, how was the feeling among the musicians? Was there more of a camaraderie amongst the musicians in England?
No, I would say it was about the same. It would be pretty much about the same. No one was really thinking about careers and making records and stuff like that.
Now, Donovan became quite a close colleague of yours. How do you look back on those times now?
Well, at this point, in retrospect, when it was happening, it was very, very nice. But unfortunately, the business end crept in with corrupt managers and so forth. And I did a lot of ghostwriting for Donovan. In other words, I wrote the music and he wrote the words. And I would say that I wrote possibly 3/4 of the Sunshine Superman album. And it just, at that point, things started going a little sour.
Mm-hmm. Is that, in later years, has that shied you away from writing with other people?
No, it hasn't shied me away. The only thing that shied me away from writing with other people is that I just have it's very difficult to write with other people because of the ranges that I require vocally. And I don't know. I just I have my job is to express my awareness of what I see going on in life. When I write with 3 criteria: anger, wonder, and technique. The anger is if you look around at the world and you think everything is okay, then you're probably certifiable. The wonder is to continuously look at the world through the eyes of a child, even when you're 57 years old. And the third one, technique, is keeping a balance between the first two. If you use those 3 criteria in creation, and creating something. I don't care whether it's a painting or a song or a piece of music or book, whatever it is. If you use those three criteria, you will be creative for the remainder of your life.
Of those three criteria, anger, wonder, and technique, is there an order of importance there for you?
Yeah, pretty much that way. Anger, wonder, and technique. Well, you can switch anger and wonder around, but technique stays the same. You got to keep a polished balance between the first two.
It's got to be there, sure.
Yeah.
You sang on a Beatles session, I believe.
Yes, I did. I sang backup vocals on Lovely Rita Metermaid.
How did that one come about?
Oh, I was just visiting. I knew George. We used to hang out with Paul and George and John and Richie. We used to all hang out there in London. We all went to the same clubs. We all went to the same same people's houses and so forth. And they invited me to the studio one night, and I went with a friend of mine named Steve Saunders, and we just, it was Steve Saunders and Dave Crosby. We all went, and we all sang on it.
All right. And I was reading another interview with you recently, and you mentioned you taught a young Joni Mitchell some guitar tips.
Yeah, when I was in New York, I had a guy that was booking me various places, and booked me into a town called Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. And I played a coffee house called the Louis Riel, and there was a young waitress there, and she really liked the way that I played 12 strings, so she asked, please would I teach her some guitar. So I started, I said, sure, baby, and I started teaching her guitar, and little did I know, I did notice that when she sat down with the instrument for the very first few times, she was very comfortable with it. She was almost a natural at it. And so I just gave her what I knew at that point, and she later developed her own style, and that's how Joni started to play.
Now, after London, you spent some time in Italy, I believe. Is that right?
Yes, I spent almost 15 years in Italy. What had happened is they threw me out of England because they said my work permit had expired and I had to leave the country for 3 months. And my friend, the man that I sing about, which for the listeners that are listening, you need to understand that when you listen to my songs, you are never hearing a song that is written from imagination. It is always from direct life experience. And my friend was a man named Casey Dice, and Casey said, go down to Positano and stay there for the 3 months that you have to be out of England, and then return. And what happened is I got to Positano, I took one look at this place on the Amalfi Coast, on the west coast of Italy, and I just decided, this is it, I ain't moving anymore.
Was it difficult to conduct a career away from the major music capitals of the world while you're in Italy?
At the time, I was disappointed and disillusioned with the industry because of what had happened with Donovan, and I didn't really care. I was more immersed in the creative aspect of music. I was doing avant-garde music, experimenting with tapes, with all the instruments that I played. I'd record something on tape and then take the tape and change the speed and turn it over so it was coming back at me backwards and then play to that. And I was just much more concerned with the creation of music at that point rather than trying to fulfill a career.
So definitely it's a period you look back on fondly then.
Yes, I do.
What eventually brought you back to the States?
Well, the man who became my manager for a few years, a gentleman named Jonathan Weston, he came to Italy and he said, do you want to make an album? And I said, no, I don't. I'd rather stay here, and I've got a Revox G36 two-track stereo recorder. I got all my instruments. I got plenty of tape. I'd just rather stay here and do what I'm doing. And he came back a couple months later, and he said, well, what do you want to do? And I actually sat down and thought about it, and I said, well, I'd like to make a 3-album set, a trilogy, and it would contain all the various idioms of music that I had been working on. And he put it together, and Dick James in London put the money together, and we flew up there, and that's pretty much what started the whole shebang.
Mm-hmm. I believe you're a bit of a fan of classical music. How has that influenced your approach to making your own music?
Well, it's influenced me quite a bit. People ask me what I listen to, and the fact of the matter is when I'm in the house or in the car, I actually, if I put the radio on, if I can find some classical music, I'll listen to that. Otherwise, I just kind of throw half an ear towards what I'm listening to. At a period like this, when I am now beginning to prepare a new project, which will be a 2-CD project, I don't listen to absolutely anything at all because I find it has a tendency to influence me. And the most difficult thing for any composer to do is to create an original melody that no one has ever heard before.
You had some time with major labels, with A&M. How do you look back on that time now?
Well, it was quite fun. Apart from the business end, I mean, John, you have to understand at a certain point when you are a creative artist, you have to make a decision. Are you going to be an artist or are you going to be a businessman? Mm-hmm. And I had to make that decision, and I decided that I wanted to be an artist because, I mean, as far as business is concerned, I'm real simple. Here's the deal. Take it or leave it. You know, and I just can't, I can't immerse myself in the details of all that stuff because it takes away from the energy that you need to create original work.
Sure. Talk a little bit about your songwriting. Has the method or approach to your songwriting varied much over the years? Is there a set routine that you always go through?
Well, no, it's only varied in as much in the last few years. I've kind of been in the position of where most of us in the world are at. You're about one paycheck away from being in the street. And that has really, like, sort of, I don't know, held me back from, because when you create, you need to be in a space where you really don't have to think about that kind of thing. And at the moment, I am in that space. I'm just now settling into being able to sit quiet in a room and play a little bit of everything you've ever created, and then get all of that out of your system so that you have a fresh page in front of you, as it were.
Has the songwriting process got easier for you through the years?
No, quite the opposite. It's become much more difficult because, as you know from the work, I don't write 3-chord things. I'm not concerned with doing what is happening in the music business. I mean, if you ask me what I think about the music business, I look at it today and I think it's not very far removed from the acute ward of a major mental asylum somewhere. And I mean, that's all a gimmick. You know, everybody's talking about attitude. Hey, one of the lines in a new song I've written is, an attitude is a front for insecurity. And it's actually become much more difficult for me to write because I need to do better than what I did before. And I mean, I have to push myself like that. And I'm somewhat concerned with the fact that the majority of audiences are not concerned with the work that is put into a craft. Because, I mean, let's face it, a lot of the music that we listen to today, there's not a whole lot of work going into the songs. And I mean, it's become more difficult for me because I need to come up with completely new changes and so forth.
Sure. Are you very self-critical of your own work when you're in the writing process?
Actually, well, I'm not so much critical because I write in a very strange manner. It's almost automatic writing. I will tell you this. Once I write something down, that's it. I never edit. I never edit music, and I never edit the words because I believe that your first insight is always the correct one.
That's rare, in fact. A lot of songwriters I speak to, they always edit. Most songwriters I speak to.
If it comes directly from your heart, instantly, bingo, it's there. Sometimes you write a piece of music, whether it's a song or a piece of music. Sometimes, if it's a song, sometimes the music comes first, sometimes the words come first. Sometimes in those rare moments you have words and music simultaneously. I can name you the number of songs that I've written that happened under those circumstances. One is Moments, which is probably the most important song I've ever written. It's on the Beyond Here Be Dragons album.
Yep.
And the other song that happened like that was All the Kings and Castles.
Mm-hmm.
And the third song is a new song that I've written. Words and music came simultaneously. It's called Try to Find a Way, which nobody's heard yet. I haven't recorded it yet. I'm doing it on this next project.
Are there any musical styles or genres that you haven't attempted yet that you'd like to pursue on record?
Well, no. I've been writing what I like to term my neoclassical music. That will go on this new project. I've been writing it for about 15 years now, and this new project will give me the ability or the capability to put that on a record, because what I'm going to do on this next project is I'm going to give you a sonic adventure. In other words, I'm going to go back to the original format that I started with concept albums. The music starts and it doesn't stop until it reaches the end of the CD. There is no silence whatsoever unless that silence is musically appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to do that because what I'm going to do is I'll probably start this thing off with some kind of a sound collage like I did on Faces or something like that, and then it'll slowly flow into a song. It'll come out of that song and it will link with a classical piece. Possibly that piece will link with another classical piece that will link with another song, so forth and so on. But when you start the CD, you may as well shut your eyes down and put on some headphones, because I'm going to take you on a serious trip.
Sounds terrific. At what stage is that at the moment?
I'm just at the beginning stages. One of the things that's very important, we're kind of getting into what I'm doing today. I am a professional firefighter and an emergency medical technician. I have been doing this for about the last 7 years now, and I really enjoy this work. The reason I do it is because I like to help people in moments when they cannot help themselves. Otherwise, I can just leave them alone, you know. But I really enjoy this work. I have been leaning a lot more because of what I see and what's going on in the business. I've been leaning a lot more towards making this the career at the end of my life than I have music. But we step in now with the history of the work and the people and the fans who have listened to my work and how I have affected them in their lives. Because, as you know, I don't write, oh, baby, she's my baby and she left me and I don't know what I'm going to do. And, you know, and my fans are paying for this new project. It's the first time in the history of recording that the fans have insisted that an album be produced by an artist and they are going to pay for it.
Has it been difficult, or how do you manage to balance the two careers, your music and your work with the firefighting? Is it does they come in conflict with each other at times?
No, they only come in conflict like the other day when you called me and we tried to do this interview, because I had just finished spending 4.5 hours fighting a structure fire, and I was absolutely exhausted. They only really conflict, say, when I'm trying to create and the pager goes off and I have to run.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I keep the two completely separate. I mean, it was really funny. In my fire department, it was 4 years before anybody in the fire department knew what I did. Because when I went there, they said, what do you do, make a living? And I said, I play guitar a little bit. And that's where I left it. And then 4 years later, one of the guys goes on the internet, and he found all the websites, and he goes, hey, man, what are you doing here? And I'm going, well, I'm doing what I really like doing, because, you know, when you think about it, John, the worst thing that's ever going to happen to me in the music business is I might fall off a stage somewhere.
Yeah.
But this work has an edge to it, and I like an edge in life.
I dare say you can claim to be the only firefighting recording artist in the world.
I think I probably could claim that, yes.
A lot of your old work reissued on CD in recent times. Are you pleased with the results of those, how they came up?
Yes, I'm very pleased with it. I'm getting some quite phenomenal reaction also from people that have never heard the work, and suddenly they hear this work and they go, man, this is absolutely astonishing music. And I mean, when I write for timelessness. If I think it's not going to stand the test of time, I will trash it immediately. And I just, people that hear it for the first time, they if they sit and they listen, then, because it's not the kind of music you want to put in the background. You just you have to sit and you have to listen to it.
Yeah, for sure.
And people who do that are quite astonished at what they hear, and I'm very appreciative of that.
What was your involvement in terms of the reissuing? Were you involved? Was there any remastering or reproduction to be done?
No, absolutely none at all. We used the master tapes, and the master tapes went directly to a digital process.
Are you still a keen fan of music? I know we've already talked about classical music, but do you actively seek out other new artists for your own enjoyment?
Occasionally, somebody will say something to me, and I mean, if people send me a tape, I will certainly listen to it, and I will give you an absolute no-nonsense critique of it. And I mean, I'm very short about stuff. If somebody sends me a tape and I think it's this way, I will flat out say, hey, don't quit your day job, man. And occasionally when I receive tapes, every now and then, once every 3 or 4 years, I'll hear something that's quite extraordinary and innovative. That's the key word for me. It has to be innovative. Mm-hmm. I mean, they talk about all this grunge and stuff and alternative music. Alternative to what? Music? I mean, I don't hear anything except volume and energy.
Yeah.
You
had quite a serious health scare about a decade or so ago. Can you tell us about that? And did you come through it with a new outlook on life?
Oh, no, I did fine. I came up with what happened is I had come here to Austin to do a concert, and for a couple of years I've been feeling a little bit tired. I pulled my boots on in the morning. I'm just tired from pulling my boots on, and I did a concert with a friend of mine named Van Wilkes. And Van, after the concert, all my guitars, I carry a lot of stuff when I go on tour. I carry a lot of synthesizers and stuff like that. I just don't walk into a concert with a guitar. When I do a concert, for me it's like painting a picture, painting a portrait. I need all my colors. And so consequently, I travel with almost a ton of gear. And we were loading all this stuff back into my van, and my friend Van Wilkes looked at me and he said, hey man, you don't look so good. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, you're gray and your lips are blue. And from that, we talked to his doctor. His doctor sent me to a cardiologist. That cardiologist put me in the hospital, and I had a quadruple bypass. But this was before any event actually occurred. Myocardial ischemia or infarction, any of that. I didn't actually have any kind of a cardiac event. So they caught it in time, and after the operation, 2.5 months after the operation, I suddenly realized I had the energy of an 18-year-old, and that's when I joined the volunteer fire department.
13 minutes. Yeah, in terms of performing live, what is the extent of your work these days?
I do a full 2 to 2.5 hour concert. It entails a lot of songs that people have heard. I can't possibly do everything. A lot of people request songs, and I've either forgotten them or I'm not up to date with them. But I try and do as much as possible from the work that I've done. But in all concerts, I always include all the brand new material.
I believe you've been looking at the possibility of a visit down here to Australia. Is that progressed in any way at all?
I have been trying so hard for years to get down there and play for you guys, but the money is the problem. I'm not in the top 40. When a promoter wants to do a tour, they're not concerned with the quality of the artist rather than the how famous that artist is. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very difficult for someone like me to get down there. I guarantee you, if I were to come there, if I could find a promoter who would get me, what I'd like to do is I'd like to bring my friends, Shawn Phillips and Sophie de Rosier. Shawn Phillips is a young gentleman who has exactly the same voice that I do, and he has spent his life studying my music. He knows more of my music than I do. And we sing together in concert, and Sophie de Rosier plays cello, and my friend Van Wilkes plays lead guitar. And I would love to come down with those people, and I guarantee you after the first concert, excuse me, after the first concert, I guarantee we'd fill every single theater that we were booked in.
It must be a scary and exciting proposition there to have someone alongside you that sounds exactly the same.
Oh, it's absolutely wonderful. I mean, John, we make sound guys absolutely nuts. If we sing a note in unison, it causes the speakers to phase. I mean, they're going, oh, wait a minute, everything's out of phase, man. What's going on? I've hooked it up wrong, you know? I mean, it really is extraordinary. He sings my songs note for note with me. And what's wonderful is that we see what he did is he would run a cassette, tape a concert that I did. Then he'd take the cassette home, and he would study my elocution in how I sing a song. So then we'd come back, and when we sing a song like Hey Miss Lonely, which has hundreds of words, when we would sing that song, it would be like one voice. And it's extraordinary to listen to us, and what's even more fun is neither one of us ever knows who's going to take a high harmony or who's going to take a low harmony. So there's that magic of what's going to happen in concert.
Oh, well, let's hope we can get a couple of promoters down here motivated to get you down here. That'll be fantastic. We'd love to see you.
I'd absolutely love to come down there and play for you guys. It would because, and I know you guys would love it. When you come to one of my concerts, you don't get just guitar and voice, a couple of voices and cello. My MIDI setup is set up so that when you hear what I'm playing, suddenly I don't use, and you got to understand, there's a computer on stage, but I don't use any sequences. What I do is I use that computer to trigger. In other words, what you're hearing in real time, but suddenly there's an orchestra behind us. You know, and I'm triggering that with the guitar. But, I mean, it just absolutely astounds audiences to hear that much sound come out of so few people.
Tremendous. Okay, Shawn, look, I'll have to let you go. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been an absolute treat talking to you. Thanks for all the wonderful music over the years.
Thank you, sir, very much, John.
And we certainly look forward to the new project. It must be a wonderful feeling to know that you've got fans that care enough to want to put up the money to get you back in the studio.
Makes me want to keep doing it.
Yeah, for sure, and we're glad you are.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Shawn. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.